Good morning, everybody. It's Dr. Rick Wallace dropping in on you on this Thursday morning, January the 11th. We are now approaching 2 weeks into a new year, uh, the 11th day into a new month. And the goal should always be progress. Having a clear idea of where it is you want to go, what it is you want to accomplish, and the why that underwrites it. Again, I will say, as I have consistently iterated, that when you determine there's some worthwhile goal that you aspire to attain, you must then, after determining with great clarity and specificity what it is you want out of life in a particular time frame, you must then determine why. And the reason that your why is so important is that there will be times where you will experience delay. There will be times in which you will have people deriding you, talking about you, speaking ill of you. There will be times that opportunities will have the door of opportunity will be slammed in your face for no apparent reason. There are going to be all of these different challenges. There's going to be cash flow issues. There's going to be sickness in the family. There's going to be death in the family. There's going to be a consistent barrage of life's vicissitudes that roll into your paradise and shake things up. And if your why isn't big enough, if the reason why you're doing it isn't so huge that it overrides the pain, you'll quit, you'll relent, you'll turn back, you'll look for an easier path, you will take up something else, you will find something else a little more comfortable to do. But when your why is so huge that it wakes you up in the morning, when your why is so huge that it's consistently at the forefront of your thinking, when your why is so huge that it just won't let you turn around, you'll be surprised at the things you'll be able to accomplish that most people don't get a chance to experience in life. So when you look at things and you set these goals, and they need to be highly specific. One of the things that I run into when I'm dealing with the people I work with, my clients, one of the things that I run into initially, there are a number of things you get into. Number one is procrastination out of fear. Number two is goals that are too ambiguous to even set a mark. When I want a better marriage, that's ambiguous. That's too much spread. That's not clear. I want to be wealthy, ambiguous. If you want a better marriage, I say I want more communication. I want to be able to communicate with my wife or with my husband at a level that everything that is expected is understood. If you want a better marriage, say that I want a marriage in which we enjoy each other's company at a greater level. I want a marriage in which we are able to intimately communicate with one another, that we have each other's best interests at heart. I want a marriage where it's not a problem to sacrifice, and to the point that sacrifice is no longer even considered sacrifice. You've got to be real specific with what you need to make your marriage better. Why? What is it that you see that your marriage needs? And that's what your focus should be on. Saying I want a better marriage, I want to improve my marriage, is too ambiguous. Saying I want to be wealthy is way too. Put a number on it. Put some acquisitions on it. How many assets, hard assets, do you need to have in order to consider yourself wealthy? What type of lifestyle is it that you intend to live within this conduit of wealth? Because your lifestyle will determine what that number is. If you're a person that's just happy living in a nice little 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom home with minimal expenses, maybe taking a vacation once a year, your number to hit to experience true wealth is going to be different than the person that wants to travel endlessly, that wants a summer home, a winter home, and a yacht. None of the aspirations are right or wrong. It's just where that person wants to live and what it takes to create that life. There's a number attached to that that says, I no longer have to wake up in the morning and trade time in order to live this lifestyle. At the moment that you have the lifestyle that you want, and you no longer have to trade time for money to live it, you have achieved wealth. But you need to know what that number is. If you don't know what that number is, you can't strive for it. You can't set for it. Also, when you don't have a number associated with what it will take to classify yourself as wealthy, which only you can do because only you truly know what it is you want out of life and what it will cost you. But the thing is, when you are trying to declare this sense of wealth, you have to have an understanding of what you're going, what it's going to take, the commitment it's going to take to get there. And the clearer the picture, the less chance you have of falling into one of the traps that destroy the progression towards wealth. And that's the survival mode, the mode where you're just trying to get this bill paid, trying to get that bill paid. Why? Because if this bill is $200, or this bill is your car note and it's $500, or this bill is your mortgage and it's $1,100, or whatever your numbers are, if it's that number and that's the number you're trying to hit, that's the number you're programming your mind to work on, to look for, to strive towards. That's your goal. You have set that mental goal, and your mind will not stop until it gets there. Here's the problem: when you're in survival mode and you sit up and say, "Okay, I've got to get this paid." Yes, those things need to be taken care of. But if you don't have a number that you're striving for beyond that number that you're surviving, just trying to make it through, this is what happens. Everybody that I've ever interviewed, everybody I've ever worked with, every story I've ever read, anybody that gets into survival mode and does not find a way to get themselves out of survival mode stays in survival mode. I have people I have come in contact with that have been in survival mode for 25, 30 years and more. Why? Because if I'm focusing on getting the bill paid that's due today or due tomorrow or due at the end of the week, my focus is clearly on that. That's survival mode. I have not set a focus on the 5 million, the 500,000, the 200,000, the 20 million, whatever that number is that's going to put me at financial security, financial independence, financial freedom, in those various progressions of financial states. I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on that $500 I need to get this bill paid before it gets turned off, or before it hits, before it gets repoed, or before they file foreclosure, whatever it is. Now, don't get me wrong; those are important responsibilities, but you sometimes get caught up in that mode of survival. And if you're in that mode of survival, what you do is you find out, I got the 500, but what now? Damn it, the 1,100 for the mortgage is due now. So you go, and now you're in survival mode to get that. And what you find is you're never ever caught up, because the day you get to and you finally meet the goal of that particular point of survival, it's something else waiting on you that you're not prepared for, because you didn't look at the holistic picture and you didn't set a goal that would deliver you from ever having to worry about being in survival mode. And it's a thought process. This is not a strategy. This is a thought process. If I'm constantly focused on what has to be paid now, I'm not preparing myself to never be here again. I'm literally so caught up in getting today fixed that I'm not prepared for tomorrow or the next day or the next day. And I constantly find myself fighting the battles of today only. And I consistently look up, and I will be 20 years into the game and I'm still fighting just to get today squared away. You've got to be willing to set a number that will set you financially. If financial independence or financial wealth at whatever level you're looking at it is your goal, you got to set that number. And it's got to be more centrally focused than what's happening in your life now. Why? Because at some point you may have to let something go in order to achieve something greater. That's just the reality of life. We fight so hard to hold on to the things that we see in front of us because that's all we've ever known. But the greater thing is beyond that. And sometimes the thing you're fighting so hard to hold on to is actually limiting your capacity to move towards the thing you want. I guess what I'm trying to say in this instance is you're going to have to be willing to be uncomfortable. Yeah, I know. Nobody wants to be uncomfortable. Everybody wants the world, but nobody wants to put in the work. Nobody wants to take the risk. Nobody wants to sit down and become committed to going the distance. And if that's the case, you're never really truly going to have any of those things that the deepest recesses of your soul are demanding of you, because it requires sacrifice. It requires risk. It requires a willingness to take on some pain, some discomfort, some heartache, some struggle, some suffering. It's a part of the process. See, one of the things that I found, another one of these things that I found with people is everybody has an idea of what the promise is, whether it's a religious promise, your relationship with God. You feel that there are some promises that are owed to you, made to you by God. Some of you are aware of your gifting, your natural gifting, and you look at your design and you determine, man, I'm pretty good at this. And so there's some promise associated with my design. There's some promise associated with my potential. And because of that, I have promise. Here's the problem, though. Every time I've studied and I've looked at people that have an idea of promise, the vast majority want to skirt the process. They want to circumvent the process. They want the promise, but they don't want to go through the process. See, they want to sit up and have the things they say they want, but they don't want the process. But let me explain something to you, then we can move on and we can shut this down. I'm not going to be here all day today. I got things that I'm trying to do. I got some goals that I'm focused on. Look, let me explain this to you. Process always precedes promise. You cannot have the promise without first enduring the process. You don't get to circumvent the process. You're going to deal with some delay. You're going to deal with some difficulties. You're going to deal with some struggles. You're going to deal with some people talking behind your back. You're going to deal with some times that things don't seem to fall in order. You're going to deal with some pushback, setbacks. It's going to happen. You're going to have a few checks bounce. We're not living in a perfect world, but when you understand that the process is a preparatory measure that prepares you to be capable of undertaking and holding and sustaining the promise, you see it different. You start to see it as a part of the development. You see it as your spiritual and mental exercises that prepare you and provide you with the capacity to undertake what the promise brings with it. See, one of the greatest challenges to character isn't suffering, it's prosperity. If you want to find out who a person really is, give them the ability to do whatever they want without inhibition, and you'll find out who they are. See, when you're suffering, you are a little bit more pushed towards humility. When you're struggling, when you're fighting, when you don't have the capacity to do everything you want, when you need other people, your behavior is different than when you think you don't. If you want to find the true character of a person, let them experience prosperity. And you'll find it. Prosperity is always, to me, in my opinion, a greater test of character than suffering. Suffering demands character, but suffering demands an integrity of character. What do I mean? See, you can have a person who has good character, but they struggle in the area of integrity. What is integrity? Integrity is the strength that underwrites your character. When you talk about integrity in the sense of engineering, structural engineering, integrity means that we have a design, and the design is designed to put a bridge from this side of the river to that side of the river, and it's supposed to be able to support so many thousand pounds at one time. But what is the integrity? Meaning that the design is there, but what is the integrity? Is everything in place? Are all the bolts tightened? Is everything held together the way it should be? Are there any weaknesses? Is it eroding anywhere? Is it rusting anywhere? Is the concrete cracking anywhere? All of those are going to affect the integrity of the bridge or the structure. The same thing with your character. So when you're going through heartaches, it's not the character. Most people have a desire to do what's right. But a lot of people lack the integrity, the strength that when things get rough, I'm not going to venture off of what my beliefs and my values are to ease the struggle. I'm going to fight through it based on my values, my interests, and my principles. Now, prosperity produces a situation where the real you comes out. So it was never really your character to be this nice. You just couldn't be mean to the people you needed. But when you don't need them anymore, the real you comes out. It's not about integrity. It's about an unveiling. It's different. But anyway, let's talk about this new year real quick, and then I'm gonna be out of your way. Let's talk about this new year. See, one of the saddest realities that I see on a daily basis is a large group of the population allowing others to write the narrative of their lives based on the opinions and assessments that they offer. Too many of us are allowing the random opinions of the minimal minded to set the standards and expectations we have for our own lives. What do I mean? I mean that you have bought into the idea that someone shared with you some time ago that you will never be a good business owner because you have accepted the assessment of maybe a parent or a teacher that said that you're not really good at this, so you should never really focus on this. You'll probably be better at this because you have accepted the narrative that someone else is writing about your life as your lot in life. You have accepted that you are going to be poor. You have accepted that you'll never be in a good, solid, wholesome, and healthy relationship. You have accepted that you could never truly contribute to society and the advancement and progression of your own progeny. Why? Because you have bought into the narratives that other people are writing about your life. When the truth of the matter is each and every person, despite whatever challenges that you are born into, I have worked with kids with Down syndrome. I have worked with kids with autism. I have worked with kids who have been declared by the public education system as being mildly mentally retarded, having learning disabilities, having suffering from oppositional defiant disorder. All of these different things that they label children with and say they can't. I have dealt with people who have come from backgrounds in which their father was not present, their mother was not present, both parents were on drugs, both parents were alcoholics. I've dealt with people who have suffered through child molestation and rape. I've dealt with people who have, and I tell you, every last one of them had a genius. Every last one of them had something in them that they could tap into and achieve the phenomenal, achieve the extraordinary, achieve the exceptional if they applied it, if they applied themselves and they took the pen out of the hands of the people around them and started to write the narrative of their lives on their own. When they changed their self-talk, those conversations they have with themselves and with others about themselves, when they stop saying I can't because, when they stop saying I'm only as, when they stop saying I wish but, when they stop saying I can only, when they stop saying if only somebody would, when they started to say if I desire it, I'll have it, when they start to say I'm going to get it or I'll die trying, when they started to say, you know what, this is who I am, when they started to say I can do anything that I decide to, when they started to say, you know what, if God says I can do all things and nothing shall be impossible, well, darn it, nothing shall be impossible. Things changed. And I sort of look at the year, because everybody gets caught up in these calendar years and they see days come and go, they see months come and go, and they look up and here's a new year dawning, and they start to look back and they start to regret the lack of progress that they have achieved over the last 12 months. So they start saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. But one thing they don't do is they don't start taking the pen away from others and start to write their own narrative, start to set their own goals, start to raise their standards, which raise their expectations that they have for their life. They stop, they don't take on the challenge of writing their own story. See, most of us have allowed others to write the narratives of our lives. Most of us have taken on a passive and docile position in our own existence on this planet. And we are allowing someone else that we have given authority in our lives. Some of us, it's the pastor. Some of it, it's our overbearing mother or our overbearing father. Some of it's our siblings. Some of them, it's our peers. Some of us, it's our bosses. Some of us, it's the people in the community. But whatever it is, if you're not writing the narrative for your life, if you're not sitting up and deciding that I'm taking the pen, I'm writing the stories. If you don't start looking at this new year as being 12 new chapters with nothing but potential, that you are literally going to write out with every thought that you think and every word that you speak. For those who are of an Abrahamic faith, regardless to whether that's Judaism, Islam, or Christianity, as you have spoken in my hearing about yourself, as you have spoken in my hearing, they said, I can't. I know that that's supposed to be for me, but I can't. I know that there's possibilities in Canaan, but I can't. See, if you are so consumed with the giants in your life that you become docile, unengaged, or an introvert in the progressions of your own well-being, you're saying that I can't. And you're writing the very narrative of your story. You're opening your life up to people with a pen that will write a narrative that benefits them and not you. Some people are writing the narrative of your life because they have no life of their own and they need somebody to hang out with. So they're going to tell you you can't. They're going to tell you that's not possible. They'll tell you you're going to lose money. They're going to tell you that you can't strive. They're going to tell you that you're not being realistic. They're going to tell you that because they need somebody to hang out in the basement of mediocrity with them. They need somebody to meander through the maze of mediocrity and hang out in the closet of colorless dreams because they don't have the courage to step out. Then you'll have others that see your vulnerability as a chance to advance their own goals, visions, and dreams. This happens with a great deal of us. People will look at you. They see the talent, but they won't celebrate the talent with you. They won't talk about how awesome you are, how well gifted you are, but they will rape that very gift each and every day, pulling something out of you, paying you minimally compared to the value you bring because you're not writing your own narrative. You're not establishing what you're capable of. You don't understand your own value because your own self-concept is twisted. You better start discovering who you are. You better look at this as being the first chapter in a new book that you're writing about your life that will set the course and the destiny of how you live life from this day forward. It's 12 new chapters in this year with 365 new pages, which is 365 new chances to get it right. Yes, you're going to make mistakes. It's a part of the decision process. But being decisive, whether right or wrong, has greater capacity than sitting back and waiting and hoping you can get verification and validation that the choice you want to make is the right one. Sometimes you just got to step out on faith. Sometimes you're going to have to sit up and say, if I can conceive it in my mind, if I can envision it, then that's God's guarantee. That's God's guarantee that it's possible. Again, for those who believe in an infinite power, an almighty, however you view that, that's not for me to tell you how. I don't take that arrogant position to tell you how and who you should engage, but I believe in an infinite power. I believe in a designer. While there's so much chaos around us, I've spent enough time to understand and see the order. I know with great specificity the rarity and the possibility of getting this much order in a universe that sustains life over billions of years, that if something were to vary in one way or another, just one thing, life would stop existing as it does. I understand that that's order. When it's held in check, when you can sit up with great specificity and mathematical navigation, determine and depict things that will happen 75, 80, and 100 years from now with great mathematical accuracy. There's order there. So when you've got that type of order, it demands a designer. Now, I'm not speaking and saying that evolution isn't a process of the design. I'm saying that the design precedes evolution, and evolution is only a part of the design. But what I'm getting at here, if there's a designer, then everything that has been designed has purpose. And if you are not operating fully in that purpose, if you are not fulfilling the destiny associated with your design, if you are not accessing, activating, and actualizing the potential that rests in the DNA of your existence, then you're failing the design. You can call it what you want. You can call it God. You can call it the universe. You can call it life. You can call it energy. But whatever it is, it put something inside of you with great specificity that has a uniqueness, even as a sapient. You're not like any other sapient or human. You have a uniqueness to you that is somewhere hidden in that design that speaks to your unique and exclusive genius and purpose on this planet. And when you determine within yourself that I'm no longer going to allow anyone else to write the narrative of my life, I'm not anymore going to allow anybody to establish the level of my value in this life. I am now going to write my own story, my way. I'm going to set the standard at which I live life. I'm going to raise my expectations. Why? Because I am learning that God meets me at the level of my expectations, and that if I want more out of this life, I've got to expect more out of this life. And that I've learned if I expect more out of this life, I raise the standards at which I engage life, and I demand more of myself. It is that level of expectancy within myself, that standard that I set, that raising of the standard that lowers my tolerance for excuses. Oh, I'm telling you that when you really truly decide to start writing your own narrative, and you determine that there's absolutely nothing that you cannot accomplish, that you actually set out to have, to do, and to see, you will find out that it's the only thing stopping you is you have not become what's required to do what it is you say you want to do. You don't get what you want, you get who you are. If you desire to be a billionaire, there's a bunch of yap all around you right now that'll tell you it's impossible. Tell you that that's reserved for a certain type of person. Tell you you've got to have this, this, and this, and this. And if you don't have this, this, and this, and this, then you can never be that. You just need to really focus on something more realistic. The truth of the matter is, if you are desiring to be a billionaire, you have not yet become, it's because you have not yet obtained everything and achieved everything within yourself and the creation of what it takes in order to become it. If you set your mind to it and you start to work toward it, and you really gain an understanding of what's required to do it, and you commit to having it, and you commit to the work, to the grind, to the knowledge that you're going to have to acquire, because it's going to be a big learning curve there. You're going to have to commit to the learning curve. You're going to have to commit to changing your way of thinking. You're going to have to commit to changing how you view money. You're going to have to commit to changing so many different things, but it's possible. See, nothing is impossible. Like Muhammad Ali said, impossible is just a big word tossed around by small men who find it easier to accept the world they've been given than to explore the power they have within them to change it. Impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. Impossible is not a declaration, it's a dare. Impossible is temporary. Impossible is potential. Impossible is nothing. Muhammad Ali. Let me tell you something. If you want something in life, you better start writing your own story. You better stop listening to the random opinions of the minimum minded who are whispering the sweet nothings of negativity in your ear, telling you what you can't do, telling you why you can't, telling you what you're going to be doing 5 and 10 years from now. You better take the reins of your life. You better reclaim your personal sovereignty. You better start to speak things that are not as though they were. You better start claiming and acting as if you are already there. I've told you this before, and I'm going to get off of here. The non-conscious brain and the subconscious mind has not the capacity to distinguish between what is imagined and what is really actually happening. Why is that important? And the subconscious mind and the non-conscious brain only functions in the now. Everything that it experiences in the way of true activity and imagination is viewed as happening now. So when you're able, not most people, but a lot of people sabotage themselves because they are consistently living in their past hurts. And you're constantly feeding your non-conscious brain and your subconscious mind the negativity you experienced years ago, and you're reliving it. And you're placing emphasis on it. And you're setting the tracks for re-experiencing it over and over again in your life. That's why you keep running into the same type of man. That's why you keep running into the same type of woman. That's why you can't get out of your financial situation. That's why you're always struggling with your weight. That's why you're always struggling with your health. That's why all of that is happening, because you're feeding that part of your brain that's saying, tell me what you want. And you're still living in what you had. But when you're able to step out in front of yourself and start imagining life how you want it, and speaking and talking about it as if you're already there, your brain and your non-conscious brain and your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference. It starts to feed into, this is who I am. And it starts to shift the way that you behave and the way you respond to things based on who you are becoming. You're writing the narrative of your future with every thought that you think about yourself now. The seeds of your thoughts are like any other seeds. They're going to have a gestational period in which they are growing and becoming what you sent them to be. And at a certain point, you're going to reap a harvest of what you've planted. When you learn to control your thoughts and you learn to write out your destiny with great clarity, with great specificity, with great certainty, and you start to move toward it the way that this universe is designed, it can't help but respond to your demand on it. And it will start to conspire on your behalf. Life will pay you whatever price you demand. When you demand it with certainty, when you demand it with intelligence, when you demand it with commitment and decision. It's up to you what you are going to do with your life. 12 months means 12 new chapters. 365 days means 365 new pages, 365 new chances. Start writing. Start writing the narrative of who you are in the future, right now. Stop thinking about what's wrong now. Stop allowing people to define you by your current situation. You're more than a situation. You're more than an event. You're more than a moment in time. You are a complete manifestation of human existence and life. And you have the power to speak things and change things and rewrite the narrative. Stop allowing the random opinions of others to define you. Stop it. Stop. I don't care who it was and when it happened. It's time for you to take the reins of your life. It's time for you to now sit up and say, you know what? This is who I am. Not this is who I'm going to become. This is who I am. I'm just not manifesting everything that represents it, but this is who I am. I'm exceptional in this area. I'm exceptional in that area. I will conquer this. I am going to have this, and I'm capable. Then find out what you don't have that you need and get it. There's absolutely nothing you can't have. The only thing that's stopping you is you don't have what it takes now. It means you've got to go out and create it. You got to go out and find it. You got to go out and connect with it. Here's the thing. The moment that you say you can have it and you create this energy that vibrates on this high level, this high frequency with these high vibrations, you literally start to draw the things to you that you need. The universe is conspiring with you to bring you what you want. That's the way it's designed. It's a universal law. This is not something that works for some people and doesn't work for others. You are attracted. Energy, everything is energy. Everything on this planet is energy. I don't care how still it is and how inanimate it is. It's made of energy. I'm gonna give you this example, and then I promise I'm gone. I'm gonna give you an example of resonation. Resonation is the concept that people explain when they say like energy attracts like energy. That's called resonation. It means that whatever energy you emit, you attract like energy. If you're on a low frequency, you attract low frequency, low vibration. And it sounds all spiritual and mystical, and everybody dismisses it, but it's the way that God, the Almighty, the universe designed it to be. Let me explain it to you in a way that can be scientifically proven. When we break down the atom, we find that what was once considered the smallest microcosm of energy and life in the world actually has an entire new world inside the atom. It's made of protons, neutrons, and electrons. But if you go deeper, you find that that actually goes, and then it gets to the point to where you can no longer even define it. It simply becomes consciousness. That's the fast definition, because that's not the point I want to make. Let's talk about resonation. When I was growing up, I don't see it demonstrated as much in video and imagery or television as much as it used to be. But when I was growing up, we used to see it on the cartoons. We would see it in commercials. There would be this real heavy set lady, trying not to say fat, but big fat lady, and she could sing, and she would hit these unbelievably high notes, like opera-like high notes. And the glass in the room, which now be a glass or glasses in the room, and they would shatter. And I remember as a kid going, that can't really happen. Then when I got old enough to get into science class, we started studying physics. I come to find out that it can happen. It's called resonation. What happens? The energy is created when air moves across the vocal cords of the woman and it's emitted from her mouth. It creates a circuit. It creates a certain frequency and a certain vibration. Well, remember, everything is energy, no matter how inanimate it is. If you go over to the glass in the room and you tap it with a music wand that will give off a sound based on the frequency, it'll give you a very specific sound. And if you tap it, you get the same frequency and the same sound every time. That's its energy frequency. That's its vibration. When that woman releases a sound that is identical, like what happens and how they actually do this is a person that has great control over their voice and great hearing hears pitches and matches pitches. That's what you call being in harmony. Well, when they tap that sound, the singer knows that's the frequency I need to reach. This is what happens when that person hits the note that matches the frequency on the glass. The glass attracts the sound, draws the sound in, but the vibration is so great that it shatters the glass. That's called resonation. You are literally creating and emitting energy with every thought you have, with every movement, with every idea. You're creating energy, and dependent upon the energy you're emitting, you're drawing things to you. You're wondering why you consistently get negative people around. It's your negative thinking. If you're consistently wondering why you get people around you to take advantage of it, it's your thought processes. We can go on and on and on. I can talk about this all day, but what I'm trying to get you to understand is you start expecting something for yourself positive. The energy you emit is different. The universe picks up on that. It takes it as a demand and a request for something that you have set your mind on. And based on the expectations you have of whether or not you're actually going to have it, the universe begins to conspire on your behalf to bring it. Now, here's where most people get this, but still don't get it. I told you, your thoughts are the seeds of your destiny. That everything that's coming to you now is coming as a manifestation of a seed that you sown in your thoughts some time ago. Here's where most people miss this when I'm talking to them. They say, okay, well, okay, so they'll come back, man, I changed my thinking, nothing changed. As with any seed, you can't go out in your backyard right now, even in the most fertile soil, and plant an acorn and wake up in the morning and have an oak tree. It's called a gestation period. Depending on where you are now, depending on the fertility of the soil you're planting in, depending on the environment around the place you're planting, and depending on what you're planting, it's going to require a gestation period. Well, if you want an oak tree, it takes a little longer than it does to grow a weed. So you're going to have to be able to pour into it, to stay on it, to believe in it. There's this bamboo in China that is planted, and it's crazy. When they plant it, they water it, they take care of it, and it literally takes like 60 months before it sprouts. So for 60 freaking months, they're sitting there and they're watering this thing and seeing nothing. Imagine someone who doesn't understand what they're doing, walking by and looking at them thinking how crazy they are. You've been working at that for 5 years and you've shown no fruit. Why are you still working on it? Because, see, I'm invested in what I've planted. I planted it here. I know it's here. I can't see anything on the surface, but I know I planted it. I know it had value. I know that it was what I wanted, and I planted it right here. So I'm going to stay here. I'm going to water it. I'm going to come back and provide the soil with the nutrients that's necessary. But check this out. They say that after 5 years and this bamboo, particular type of bamboo sprouts in the 5th year, that within 6 months, it grows to over 100 foot tall. That sounds like a heavy return on investment when it does pay off. But how many people quit in year 1, in year 2, in year 3, in year 4, because they didn't understand the gestational process? See, remember we talked about that earlier. Promise is preceded by process. Oh man, if you just take time to understand the possibilities, there's no end to what is possible. There's no end to what's possible. We've been given a limited view of what life has for us, and we've accepted it, hook, line, and sinker, and rested in it. Step out of it. Dare to believe. I'm telling you right now that life will pay you whatever price you demand of it. The problem is most of us aren't demanding much. And the rest of us aren't willing to put in the work and the consistency and the commitment required to see the vision come true. That's it for now. As I always say, man, I absolutely adore the opportunity to share with you guys. If you want to create some massive shifts in the way you view life, because it's going to take a paradigm shift. You're going to have to stop seeing life through the lens you're looking at it through now. The paradigm that's guiding your thought processes is not the paradigm that's going to get you where you need to go. If you want to really look at creating a paradigm shift, you got the opportunity of sitting down and working with me directly, or working with one of our counselors or coaches, or you can order the Power of Paradigms course, which is one that you set the pace of change and consistency, and within 30 days, you will begin to see some massive changes. You'll also get 2 encounters with me with that particular course. But whatever you do, whether it's with me, whether somebody, you need to find somebody that can provide insight to where you're going. While you can make it without ever, I'm literally serious, you can make it without ever consulting anyone. You're going to need people along the way. But what happens is, my grandmother used to always say, son, sometimes bought sense is better than borrowed, but you will probably want to borrow it. What she was telling me was, when you can tap into people who've already been there, when you can tap into people who have the expertise and the knowledge to get you where you're going, it shortens the learning curve. It shortens the way you get there. It advances your approach to your vision and your dream at a much more rapid pace. And I can tell you now that I consult someone who pours into me, and I invest in them because they're investing in me. And I do that. And everybody I know has one. The best in the world that you look at and probably see on television and on YouTube and everywhere else have someone that they go to. It simply shortens the curve. Here's why. As much as I don't know everything. And if I'm only in the presence of those who are looking to me to learn, I can't advance. I must place myself in the presence of someone who knows more than me on a particular issue or a particular situation or a particular topic in order to advance in that area. So I'm always looking for those people who are performing in a particular area that I desire to advance in at a higher level than me. And then I approach them and I find out what they're going to require from me to get what I want from them. It's a part of the process. And there is absolutely, absolutely nothing wrong. I don't care who you are and what world you operate in, with being compensated for bringing value of greater worth than the compensation to someone's life. And that's something I've always prided myself in doing. I bring more to the table than I'm asking in compensation. If I tell you it's going to be 10 sessions, I guarantee you I'm going to give you 12. It's just the way I operate. But anyway, whatever you do, you're going to have to change your paradigm. You're going to have to change the way you view life. I believe it was Albert Einstein that said that you cannot solve an existing problem using the same thinking that got you there. And with that being said, I'm out of here. Like I always say, I'm going to Downey, and I encourage each and one of you to do the same thing. With that being said, I'm out of here. Peace.